Hello, welcome everyone to the first edition of the Black in Mathematics Association uh, Pi View Space Forum. Previously, we've always had View Space, which which was about interviewing highly experienced mathematicians that are blacks from Africa, from and every part of the world. For the first time, we are bringing up five people together as panelists to have some conversation that we believe will be very helpful for every one of us, because I mean, listening to the past, the experiences and the experiences of the people we had interviewed in the past. Interestingly, our first interviewee for the View space was Prof. Abdon Atangana. Thankfully, he's here today. We've also interviewed Prof. Emmanuel Bakare. I mean, it was such a nice time listening to his experience. We've interviewed Professor Olaleru. We've interviewed, we've interviewed a woman too. That's Dr. Deborah Akinloto and all that. So you can be sure that we are in for a great time. So if you missed out on any of those events, BMA has a website, sorry, a YouTube channel, I mean. In the course of the event, we are going to share the link in the chat so you can always catch up, with the previous discussions. So for this afternoon, we welcome everyone wherever you're joining us from. We are very glad to have you here. We are particularly grateful to our panelists. Thank you so much for being here today. We know that drawing from your wealth of experience is going to be so helpful to us. Before we kick off, before we get into the main thing, because I want to make the most of the time we have. Um, of course, maybe if this is your first time of joining a BMA event, a Black in Mathematics Association event, I'm very sure you want to know more about BMA. And interestingly, our convener is here. I remember in 2021, I was back in Nigeria when he just got connected, and I think it was just the idea of BMA was just kicking off. And when he shared it, I was like, wow, this is such a nice one, and I really like to be part of this. So, and since then we kicked off trying to do our best to promote uh, blacks in mathematics. And I like to see the floor to him to tell us something about Black in Mathematics Association. Dr. Adejimi, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Dansu. Thank you very much for everyone who has taken time out of no time or out of their busy schedule to be here. Just in a very short time, this is Black in Mathematics Association, a representation that gives a form of identification to every Black mathematician that we have around the world. This kick off as a passion and as a burden to see how we change the paradigm of what mathematics is, and also to showcase the giftings and the talents and what we can do to the world, and also to have a form of, a place where you can call home, a place where you can call your people, or rather, I will use the word a place where you can call your kingdom. And we've been doing this for close to 3 years, and we have our webinars quarterly, and also we have a private space where we just want to meet with veterans in the field of mathematics who are really doing an amazing job, and to know them one on one, officially and unofficial, their background. Sometimes we see them afar off, and we private space bring them to a closer place or a closer dimension where we meet them. And one of the things we do in Black in Mathematics Association is we have a research arm. We started with just one group, and now we have close to 6 groups who are really doing a whole lot of research, bridging the gap between the older generations and the younger ones that are coming up. So we have a funnel where we have researchers, masters, PhD students, postdocs, and senior researchers and professors coming together to also transfer knowledge to each and every one of them. And this has been ongoing, and we've been seeing the impact. We also have a partnership with them, and which also help with respect to data analysis. We're really doing a whole lot, and we just create a space where we want people to just have a form of identification. And I really want to appreciate Professor Abdon Atangana, Professor Jude Kong, Professor Emmanuel Bakare, and our co-founder, which is here, which is in person of Dr. Kayode Osinubi. They've been helping us a whole lot with respect to the community, and they've been showcasing what the Black community can do. And fortunately, we were also able to get a female to to bring the serious balance that we need. So this is Black in Mathematics Association, a place where you belong, a place where you can call home. Thank you very much. Over to you, Dr. Dansu.
Yes, thank you so much, our dear convener, Dr. Adejimi Adeniji. Of course, we are going to make the most of our time. So what I'm just going to do right now is to introduce each speaker, each panelist to us, and then I'll cede the floor again to Dr. Adejimi, who will take them through the first round of questions. Afterwards, I'll step in to take the second round, and then I cede the floor to him again to take the final round of questions, and then afterwards we round it off from there. So you are in for a very nice time listening to highly experienced mathematicians of African origin. Ultimately, our goal is for every black person anywhere in the world, right? But I mean, we start from home, starting from Africa. So so what we are going to do is I'm going to read the profiles one after the other. If possible, if our speakers can put on their videos, if possible, if that's possible, they can put on their video. Then we can maybe Dr. Adejimi, you can highlight them. I think there's a way we can do that to maybe fix them, make sure their picture is showing while I do that. And the first person I want to whose citation I want to read is Professor Emmanuel Afolabi Bakare. Okay, so I'll move on with that. So Professor Emmanuel Afolabi Bakare is a full professor of applied mathematical modeling and analytics in the Department of Mathematics at the Federal University of Ekiti, Foye, Nigeria. He serves as the founder and director of the International Center for Applied Mathematical Modeling and Data Analytics, ICAMDA, a research center focused on training modelers and applying mathematical and statistical methods to fields like epidemiology, ecology, environmental risk, and global health challenges such as malaria. ICAMDA collaborates with international partners, including the West Africa Mathematical Modeling Capacity Development WAMCAD network, and has received funding from organizations like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for Malaria Modeling Research. Professor Bakare's expertise lies in stochastic methods, extreme value modeling, machine learning, nonlinear differential equations, dynamical systems, and simulations for infectious disease strengths and public health interventions. He holds a PhD in mathematics from the University of Ibadan and has been cited over 617 times in scholarly works. Notable contributions include forecasting student enrollment trends at 4 year and research on the effective reproduction number of Plasmodium falciparum or malaria in Nigeria. In the context of conference and symposia, Professor Bakare has delivered plenary talks such as one on stochastic methods, extreme modeling, and machine learning applications at Gaston University in Senegal. He has also led ICAMDA's participation in events like the second annual WAMCAT Symposium in Guinea-Conakry and contributed to ICAMDA's annual scientific retreat in January 2025, where he spoke on research trends and grant strategies. Additionally, he chairs the West African region of the African Society for Industrial and Applied Mathematics. So, make welcome our first panelist for this day, Professor Emmanuel Afolabi Bakare. All right. So afterwards, I move on to Professor Abdon Atangana. Professor Atangana is a Cameroonian mathematician and full professor of applied mathematics at the University of the Free State (UFS) in Bloemfontein, South Africa, where he serves as academic head of the department and is affiliated with the Institute of Groundwater Studies. Originally from a modest background in Cameroon, he has resided in South Africa for over 15 years and obtained his PhD in applied mathematics from UFS in 2013. Professor Atangana is a pioneer in fractional calculus, particularly known for developing the Atangana Balauneux fractional derivative with non-local and non-singular kernels, which has applications in modeling complex systems like heat transfer, fluid flow, groundwater dynamics, and renewable energy optimization. I mean, one interesting paper I read about him was, there was a time he was so criticized. He even used the criticism to write a paper. That was sweet when I saw the paper. So, see, his research also encompasses partial and ordinary differential equations, perturbation methods, asymptotic methods, iterative methods, numerical analysis, and fractional calculus. With over 568 publications, including books from publishers like Springer, Elsevier, and Taylor and Francis, Professor Atangana has amassed more than 29,000 citations and an H-index ranging from 74 to 81 across platforms like ResearchGate, Semantic Scholar, and Google Scholar. He has supervised 14 PhD students, 25 masters, and 7 postdocs since 2015. I'm not well. The figures may not be exactly, because we had to gather this from different sources. Professor Dangana serves on over 20 editorial boards, reviews for more than 450 journals, earning World Champion Peer Review Awards in 2016 and 2017, and is the first African editor for several top-tier applied mathematics journals. He shares the African Mathematical Union Commission on Research and Innovation and is president of the African Society for Industrial and Applied Mathematics, ASIAM. Professor Atangana has been elected to the African Academy of Sciences 2018 and the World Academy of Sciences 2021, the youngest ever at under 40. Recognized as a Clarivate highly cited researcher, top 1% globally, including cross-field impact, and ranked as the world's top mathematician by Stanford University Metrics. Notable awards include the inaugural Tuas Mohammed A. Hamdan Award in 2020, Obada Prize in 2020, UNESCO A.L. Fozan International Prize for Young Scientists in Africa in STEM, Research.com Mathematics Leader in South Africa 2025, and Black Stars Award for Global Black Excellence. In conferences, Professor Tangana has delivered over 30 plenary and keynote speeches, participated in more than 20 international events, and hosted the first African conference for industrial and applied mathematics, ASIAM 2024, in Cape Town. His work inspires African youth, emphasizing mathematics' role in AI, innovation, and real world problem solving while critiquing Western centric success metrics. Note that while highly influential, some of his papers have faced retractions as reported in academic watchdogs. But I mean, a lot of attacks here and there. But he turned this whole thing, he wrote a paper out of that, and it was so nice to see that. Then the next person I move on to is Professor Jude Isabella Kong. Professor Jude Isabella Kong is a Cameroonian Canadian mathematician and Canada Research Chair in Community-Oriented Disease Modeling at the University of Toronto's Department of Mathematics, where he focuses on AI, data science, mathematical modeling, and mathematics education. His research emphasizes developing innovative AI, data science, and mathematical methodologies to address real-world challenges in epidemiology, ecology, infectious disease modeling, and population dynamics. Previously, he served as an assistant professor in the Department of Mathematics and Statistics at York University with a substantial track record in mathematical biology, statistical modeling, citizen science, participatory research, and collaborations with policymakers in government and industry. Professor Kong holds expertise in artificial intelligence applications for pandemic preparedness, data analytics for public health, and decolonizing AI governance, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa and Latin American stroke Caribbean context. I mean, you can see the far-reaching impact. Um, so he has authored or co-authored over 527 publications with more than 11,000 citations on ResearchGate and around 2,500 on Google Scholar. The figures may be more than this. We are based on our own research. This is what we are getting. So covering topics like Mpox epidemiology, COVID-19 transmission modeling, and AI for global health equity. His lab and initiatives such as the Africa Canada Artificial Intelligence and Data Innovation Consortium (ACADIC) train students from diverse backgrounds in applied mathematics, public health, and AI. He's a member of the Canadian Black Scientist Network, the Mathematics for Public Health Network Scientific Advisory Committee, and the Canadian COVID-19 Modeling Rapid Response Task Force. In conferences and outreach, Professor Kong actively engages in events promoting mathematics and AI, including presentations on mathematics at the New Oil and Gas, isn't that lovely? At the University of Leicester's Raising Black Talent program and workshops with the African Institute for Mathematical Sciences on actionable data for policy in Africa. His work extends to international collaborations for controlling outbreaks like COVID-19 and inspiring underrepresented students through Ask a Mathematician sessions and family-oriented math education approaches. Could you please make welcome Professor Jude Kong? And then I move on to our next speaker, that is Dr. Jummy David, who earned a PhD and MSc in Applied Mathematics from the University of British Columbia in Canada. She's an applied mathematician and pharmacometrician. I mean, I really love her being on this board because I mean, she's going to give us some ideas from the world of pharmacy as a mathematician. She's an applied mathematician and pharmacometrician who brings numbers to life by using them to improve medicine and public health. She has worked with organizations like Novartis, the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, British Columbia Centers for Excellence in HIV and AIDS, and now Pfizer, where she applies advanced modeling and simulation to support drug development in inflammation and immunology. Beyond her research, she is passionate about using data and mathematics to make a real difference in people's lives. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome Dr. Jummy David. And then we go on to our last panelist for this night, but not the least. That's one of our co-founders in the Black in Mathematics Association, Dr. Kayode Osinubi. Dr. Kayode Osinubi is a Nigerian applied mathematician and postdoctoral researcher at Northern Arizona University in the School of Informatics, Computing, and Cyber Systems, where he contributes to building cyber infrastructure for public health through spatial modeling. He earned his PhD in infectious disease modeling using statistical and mathematical approaches from University Grenoble-Alpes in France, following a master's degree with distinction from the University of Ilorin and a bachelor's from Ekiti State University. His research expertise spans biostatistics, machine learning, data analysis, computational epidemiology, disease ecology, biomathematics, and modeling of outbreaks such as COVID-19, Mpox, Ebola, tuberculosis, and Rift Valley fever, often integrating deterministic, stochastic, and data-driven methods. With over 1,000 citations on Google Scholar, he has co-authored numerous publications in journals like Frontiers in Applied Mathematics and Statistics, MDPR viruses, and computational and mathematical methods. Dr. Shinobi is actively involved in professional societies, including the Society of Industrial and Applied Mathematics (SIAM) and Institute of Mathematics and Its Applications (IMA) UK, where he serves as the vice chair and chair designate of the Early Career Mathematicians Committee, and the Black in Mathematics Association, where he co-founded to promote underrepresented Black mathematicians through research, collaboration, and community service. He's the head of research at BMA and is doing an excellent job. He's also an alumnus of the Heidelberg Laureate Forum in Germany and a fellow of the African Scientific Institute. In conferences and symposia, Dr. Shinobi has presented on topics like Adomian decomposition for Bragg-2's equation at the MCUB International Conference on Mathematics and its Applications in Cameroon 2017, COVID-19 modeling at the British Applied Mathematics Colloquium 2022, and CIME Summer School in Italy 2022, and geoclimatic determinants of COVID-19 at the EGU General Assembly in 2021. He has participated in events such as the ISTEAM's multidisciplinary conferences in Ghana 2018 and France 2020, and mentors aspiring researchers through sessions like PTDF grant interviews. His outreach emphasizes encouraging young Africans in mathematics, highlighting its role in addressing real-world problems like public health and data challenges in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, could you please make welcome Dr. Kayode Oshinobi and indeed all of our panelists this day. Welcome, dear panelists. Over to Dr. Adejimi Adeniji.
Okay, that's an amazing one. As we can see, it's all our panelists are very heavy in terms of portfolios and everything. And there is a reason why we try as much as possible to gather every one of them. And I really want to thank our panelists for taking time out of no time to be here. Prof. Jude, Prof. Emmanuel, Dr. Kayode, Prof. Abdon, and Dr. Jummy David. Okay, so I'm going to go straight to the point. And there is a reason why we have this gathering. So if you look at it, we're looking at the mathematical modeling of, infectious disease epidemiology in Africa, to be precise. The past, the present, and the future. And I'm very sure that in the course of our discussions, we will see the reason why we're having this emergence of this discussion. So I'm going to start with the past, and this I'm going to throw, according to my screen, to the panelists. Now, after COVID, it seems as if infectious disease epidemiology, from the mathematical perspective, had a very, if I would call it maybe an exponential increase in its visibility, in a lot of people knowing more about it. And it seems as if, where was it before COVID? So I'm going to throw this question to our panelists, and I will call them the way I have it on my screen here. And I want them to, share their perspective with the question I'm going to ask in probably maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Now, this goes straight, like I said, to my screen. This goes straight to Prof. Jude. What were the earliest contribution of African researchers to infectious disease modeling, such as malaria, HIV, Ebola, and the outbreak response? We're talking about the past now. So, Prof. Jude, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank the Black in Mathematics community for continuing to convene this type of meetings so that we should have discussions in where we are in the continent and where we are heading to. That will help us shape our future together. And as young people, I really love the brains that are here. Now, where is African mathematics in the past? Just look at the past. If you look at it, a lot of the models currently used in modeling, you will either have an African along the generational stream. If you think of it, the first disease, malaria modeling, initiated by Professor Gideon, is an African. And if you look at within the lines of the typical classical SIR model that we're moving from one stage to two stage now, by one stage, just looking at disease spreading, then moving to two stages where you're not looking at disease in one layer and looking at human in another layer, or moving to multiple stages where you're looking at behavior, misinformation, and disinformation, you will realize that the like of Professor Gideon and others within the continent are within the generational stream of deriving this model.
Mm-hmm.
So in essence, Africans have always laid in the foundation of these models behind the scenes. And when you look at the contribution around the world, if you look at any institution around the world that are focusing on disease modeling, you will see that there are a lot of Africans present there, which means that, and this is where research should go, either the passion because of what happens in our community is driving a lot of us to wanting to solve the issues in our community, and then we end up leading in that around the world. And as you will be discussing further, will be a matter of how is that impacting the continent. But in terms of the leadership in position around the world, in leading this area, Africans have always been at the forefront. In terms of the foundational knowledge in this area, our educational background has trained us well, positioned well to be able to lead in that direction. So within the continent, I think we have been well positioned. You mentioned Professor Atangana here, who started fractional derivative. These are Africans who started new methodologies that are now currently being deployed around the world. That continue to show our leadership, and I'm really glad that he's joining us here today. And I'm just so looking forward to this to him speak as to how his model has been leveraged around the world to fight diseases. That's a great contribution from Africans. Professor Gideon there, Atangana here, and others.
Thank you very much, Professor Jude, for actually taking us from the genesis of where these things are coming from. Because it seems as if for the upcoming generation, they ask some of this question like, what is the impact of Africa on the global scene? Have we charted any part? Have we done anything? So I'm going to ask the same question to Professor Emmanuel Bakare in just 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so in addition to what Prof. Jude said, I also knew back then, I think when I was in UI, I knew of Professor Shomi and as a malaria modeler, but I didn't really like know the extent of his work until I was a TWAS associate in when I was in Bangkok. Some years now. So I saw that I was reading a particular paper on Gariki projects on malaria. And then I saw a lot of people citing his work, Professor Shomi. And the work he did was like far back in 1970s or 60s on malaria. I still have that paper with me now. So I saw that like a lot of mathematicians from Africa, even Nigeria, especially, So I've been, they have piqued interest in the area of modeling. Like even during my undergraduate days, I knew of Professor Ayeni in those days, who was also doing some things in modeling. But one major one that really struck me was the work of Professor Shomi that was found in WHO material, when I was with some Oxford group in that's my idol Oxford my idol group in Thailand, and like it was like, wow. So these are people who have really done a lot of stuff and in Africa on modeling. But what I noticed was that before COVID, the advent of the use of data was not really something that people were really driving towards. Especially in Africa, majorly we focus mainly on the theoretical, doing stability and all of that, but what I saw was that there were a lot of theoretical work being done in Africa, in Nigeria, and even in Gideon. I met him, I think 2009 now in Cameroon. So he was doing something on that's University of Buea. He was doing something on malaria and mosquito, and then so some of those Africa made some contribution, but the challenge that was actually there that didn't really make most of those work to fly has to do with the area of data, which after COVID, people started, especially from COVID time, a lot of work started coming out that has something to do with data, because what I saw was that you see now that the data work makes our work to be much more policy relevant, not just like you are just doing a theoretical work and then it's not speaking to a particular location. So you find out that a lot of work were done before COVID, but they were theoretical, and then so it was something to start up, but I think a lot of Africa did a lot of work there, malaria and some few other diseases. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Bakare. That's very interesting. So I'm going to call Dr. Jimmy David, and after Dr. Jimmy David, I'll call Dr. Kayode, then Prof. Abdon. So, Dr. Jimmy, you have the floor. It's nice meeting you.
Thank you so much, and I hope everybody can hear me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so just to deviate a little bit from what has been said, apart from the pupils' contribution, I would like to highlight our contribution in terms of data. So Africans have significantly contributed to the data, either positively or negatively. So looking at the Ebola outbreak, where it started from Africa, but then without data of who are the people that were infected, we won't be able to tackle this pandemic. And just last week, I was talking to a friend, so a colleague rather. So they were working on a clinical trial of sickle cell disease, and I was expecting to hear that, oh, this trial is being conducted in Europe, in China, in Australia, in the US. That is the places that we're used to, like having the clinical trials. But it was like, oh, this trial is being conducted in Africa because we have so many sickle cell diseases in Africa. If they are conducted it elsewhere, they wouldn't have gotten enough participants. So we have, in the past, we have contributed so much to the data that many people use today, although we have issues of incomplete data, non-adherence, but we have significantly contributed to the data in the past, and this is there's been a substantial improvement in our contribution at the present, and I hope that these things get improved as we move on to the future. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Jimmy. Dr. Kayode, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to be here and also to sit on this. I'm humbled to sit on this panel with, very top applied mathematicians on disease modeler. Yeah, I think already we have, examples of people that have contributed, in the past on this panel, and like what Professor Jude said, we can't wait to hear from Professor Abdon, whose model has been cited widely and has been used widely. And some of the people sitting on this panel to have contributed largely, to the spread of disease in Africa. And building on what Dr. Jimmy said, without data, without patient zero, what happened in terms of Ebola is us having a patient zero so that we'll be able to, to track, the disease, to know the origin of the disease, and also to be able to have the biological knowledge of the disease. So while we have challenges of data, we have challenges of keeping record, we have challenges of, I'm a very strong advocate of open science. Whenever I review paper, I normally say that, most time in my concluding statement, I always encourage authors, to make, the data, infrastructure, kind of public for reproducibility. And that's some of the challenges we have. Sometimes some of our, in the past, we cannot reproduce our work, in terms of open science, in terms of uh, reproducibility. And we have really contributed to, data-driven models, they are very, very important. It helps us to, to forecast, help us to predict. And that is what we as Africans, we have been able to, to contribute. And we have built on what, Bernoulli has, started with an SI model. On smallpox, and from there, that has built over the years, and that is what has happened in the past. And most of us, we still try to look forward to see, we still have issues of malaria in our country. We want to get to that stage, in Africa where we eradicate malaria, like what Professor Bakare said. Our models we build, must zoom in, must be kind of community driven, must have community impact, must have public health, impact. And that's why we must, continue that discussions with public health. We must, always do that so that we can build, robust model. We have done in the past, we have done a lot of theoretical work. Some of the papers we did in the past, some of them, just try to, do some mathematical pools, because there's limit to data. And that's our record in the past. And I'm hoping that, as we continue this discussion, we will be able to, to chart a path forward so that we can have, more strong, upcoming generations, stronger generations that will build on what, you know, we have built in the past as disease modeler and as applied mathematician.
Thank you very much, Dr. K. That's absolutely profound as well. Yeah, Prof. Abdul, it's like everybody has been waiting for you to talk.
No, thank you for giving me the opportunity again to be here. When my sister was speaking about data, I saw Africa in another dimension. We have also played another role as a test ground where people come with some infection disease from other countries. They come and test them here in Africa. And most of the time, many of us are not aware of that. That, for example, HIV, for example, this disease was manufactured somewhere else, and Africa was as a test ground. And now, and that is very important because when they come and test those diseases in Africa, they perhaps think that our natural system is powerful in a way that maybe they can do some tests and see the result, and they can now, come out with something like a vaccine, and it is like a play where we are making money. So Africa become like their market. When they want to make more money, they come and test. So I was also expecting to hear that Professor Abel Gubel, who also contributed seriously in mathematical modeling, he's a Nigerian that is actually living now in the United States. He also contributed in epidemiology and epidemiological modeling. To say that Africa did not contribute much, as some people believe, or sometimes when I go to a conference, some people want us to believe that Africa did not contribute. No, we contributed. But the major problem that we have in Africa is funding. Because when Professor Bakare, for example, developed a mathematical model, for him to validate that mathematical model, he needs, data. And for you to get some of those data, sometimes you need finance. And that is where our work is unable to be seen at what stage. And now, when people like Professor Ngomel, for example, he has that opportunity to have at the same time have, the background that we have in Africa as mathematician, and now he exposed to the West, and he has money, then he can do wonders. So that is the problem that we had in the past. The reason why our work cannot be viewed internationally is because we don't have sufficient fund, to start from theory, develop the theory, do the analysis, and try to see if our theory is in good agreement with the observation. So that is the problem that we had in the past. Now, what we talk in terms of why suddenly mathematical biology become very important. Let me tell you something. It is like I don't know how I can say it in English, but they play the people that are in charge of the world play with our memory. So they bring COVID, they put it on the media, everybody is aware of it, everybody start panicking, everybody start modeling. Of course, like Professor Bakare said, we do theory, and sometimes that theory is not relevant. And the problem for me at this point, the reason why maybe the theory has not made too much impact in the society is because we stop our brain using the foundation of what people built before. For example, the reproductive number. Reproductive number, you start asking ourselves some question. Can we use the reproductive number? Because I would like also for us to talk a little bit about that theoretical analysis of epidemiology. Can we use the reproductive number to say if the disease is going to result in a different phase? How do you call it? Different wave? Are we going to have 3 waves? Are we going to have 4 waves? So that we should be able to take some decision now, so that we stop that in the past. We developed a lot of theoretical model, and none of those models was able to predict how many waves the COVID will have. And that is why we're all surprised. Then now, after COVID, people start asking questions. How important is the data? How important is the theory? How can we use data and theory, match them together to predict what will happen in the future? Can we continue using the foundation that we call foundation of in epidemiology, or can we divert in another way, bringing something new that will allow us to understand better the spread of a disease? So I think that we are now a little bit we have already mastered what people have introduced before. And it is time for us as African people to sit and reflect and ask ourselves, what can we do as African people to develop something that people will criticize? To say that, okay, that thing worked, but we don't want to agree. So that it should be something that we develop in our continent that will attract attention of the whole world. And they will test it, they may criticize it, but something that will work. So in that direction, that is the direction that I would like young African people to go. We have already used what people have introduced before. We see that it works, but it's not working 100%. What can we do to go forward? I would like to come a little bit of to discuss about because our brother Jude Kong said he would like to hear my own contribution. So let me give you a little bit of background. We have what we call in mathematics a classical derivative. Everybody use it, to predict what will happen in the future. And you go second derivative, third derivative, then you ask yourself, if you have n derivative, what happened? Now, they came out with the idea of fractional calculus. Fractional calculus based on power law. And this has been used everywhere. But what is the problem? The problem is that when you are looking at some process in nature, those processes, they don't follow power law. They follow sometimes crossover behavior. For example, it starts with stretch exponential, and later on it goes to power law. And what a differential operator can be used, to capture that type of system, that type of behavior. That is why I came in to introduce a differential operator based on the Mittag-Leffler function. That Mittag-Leffler function is the generalized of exponential function that has two properties. The first property, when you near zero, it gives you what they call stretch exponential. So that is why it can describe the decay of the flesh of a human body. Then now, when you go a little bit far, you see that it gives you what they call power law behavior. And that is, it can describe, for example, the decay of bones. So that is, and what was the people criticize? They say it does not satisfy the index law. But life is not index law. Why? It cannot satisfy the index law. For example, I have explained it when I was in Nigeria. I was explaining the fact that you cannot commute memory. The memory cannot be commutative. It can be commutative at some extent. For example, when you see, you cannot, if you have the decomposition of a human being, you cannot start by the decomposition of the bone, then the decomposition of the flesh. It will give you the same result when you start with the decomposition of the flesh, then the decomposition of the bone. It's not going to happen. So very recently, we had a problem where they said that it does not satisfy the initial condition. Yes, it should not satisfy the initial condition in the sense that when you are using ABC, you are not supposed to use Riemann-Liouville because Riemann-Liouville is not the inverse of ABC. So that problem was in fractional calculus. Even when you use capital, you use Riemann-Liouville, they are not inversible. So recently, I introduced a new operator that is exactly the inverse of capital. So that paper has been accepted. It is a monogram. I wrote 150 pages, and it is now with one top monogram publisher in Springer. So it's going to come out very soon, and I close the mouth of everything. So of everybody, those European people. So my what I want to say to our younger one now is, a mathematician, a great mathematician, is not the one that derives a very big theorem or protect his integrity, that people should speak good about you. It is somebody who thinks out of the box. It's somebody who comes with something that will make people to think, ask themselves, what is this? And when you come out with something like that, then the world starts thinking. And maybe after 30 years, some people will see that although we try to criticize this thing was relevant. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Abdul. In fact, I don't even know what to say. This gives me the feeling of the first private space we had with you. To be honest, when I sat down and look at the past, the present, and the future of mathematical modeling in Africa, it was as a result of two people. One, the first private space we had, you raised a dust, which in the second phase will be spoken about. Then we had another female person who also raised the same dust. And that was when I sat down. I spoke with Dr. Dansu and Dr. K. I said, I think we need to have a forum where we're going to have heart-to-heart discussion. Because permit me to say this. Our race is a brilliant race. To be honest, we are a set of brilliant and gifted people, and we have what it takes to shake the entire world. And thank you very much for raising some of these things, Prof. Abdul. Now, we've said some things. I have two more questions which I'm going to ask, and these about 2-3 people have mentioned this among the panelists, and I'm going to direct this straight to Prof. Jude. Prof. Jude, you've dealt so much. Of course, we can't talk about AI and not talk about data, and we know how this data has kind of, in a way, should I use the word limit? It has a lot of issues. I want to put this question to you as the executive director of and grant funder of so many things. What can you say about this data entity and its effects on Africa, and the possibility of that effect in ripple terms? So once you answer that, I put that to Dr. K as well.
Thank you so much, my good friend. I want to just congratulate Professor Atangana. So I had learned that there was a fellow Cameroonian, fellow African, who was very young and was the second best mathematician back in 2022 when we were working. And I dig deep and realized that it was my fellow brother, Professor Atangana, and I was really impressed that he is based back in the continent. So most of the time when you hear these, people will say, oh, they are the ones abroad and the resources that are there, which play a big role. But my brother, Professor Atangana, is the second. Again, I want to repeat to everybody, this is the second best mathematician around the world. Number 2 mathematician. But in 2022, at a very young age, I think you should win the Fields Medal. I think that's the next Fields Medal coming your way, my brother. And when you speak strongly and how the work, your contribution, and keep on coming, I see the Fields Medal in African future, and I see that coming your way, my brother. Keep on the amazing work. When you talk about the limitation in Africa and you mentioned data, I want to just look at it from the other part of it, which is the decolonial approach. Africa is a guinea pig, which means that we have the data that people used to test their model. When my brother mentioned that, a lot of the work being done abroad, people give those funding, at times they fund it to get the intelligence on the data. The issue back home, and again, we talk about the theoretical framework, which has played a vital role. Our brother, Professor Atangana, is his theoretical framework right now that's being used around the world in informing policies. So we need those theoretical framework. We need the people working on those theoretical framework to keep the great work. Put your feet on your, just ensure that you speed up. Any speed bump you find on your way, don't stop there if you're developing theoretical framework. When it comes to people deploying those theoretical framework to inform policies in the community, and talking about the data piece there, you realize that those at London School of Hygiene, Johns Hopkins, rely on the data in Africa. So which means, yes, we need novel data, but the data has always been there in Africa that other people come and use. Then what is the problem that our models end up not being made actionable for policies?
Oh.
And this is a very good reflection. I want also to reflect on this. When there is an outbreak in the continent, Nigeria will run to Johns Hopkins to build their framework, or London School of Hygiene. Cameroon would join for Santa Pasteur and others. When you even take money and give it to a researcher back home, then in some countries that the universities will not uplift you of the teaching load, you still have to teach several courses and do the research. That doesn't, at some point, it kills research. Somebody doing the work strongly, trying to ensure that he serves his community, he does the work, the government does not use the work. So you labor a lot, in addition to the fact that you still have to teach the normal course load that you used to teach. And at some point, a lot of people tend to be like, you know what, I need to put food on my family's table. And then they have to teach in multiple universities. And when you give that money, end up not being translated. The issue not become data. What is the solution and where do we see this coming? There are several platforms like the Africa-Canada Artificial Intelligence and Data Innovation Platform, the Global South Artificial Intelligence for Pandemic Epidemic Preparedness and Response Network. What we have done that have worked in this network, which goes beyond the data because we look at unconventional data sources to circumvent the other one, is about starting with the community first. If you have a community whose problem you want to solve, any data you need, that community will provide the data. Africa has a lot of this data. Once you start with the community, you need to build a relationship. Don't hurry to say, I want to rush and just publish this paper, oh, this. We rush that way and we end up solving the problems that are not locally relevant to Africa, but locally relevant to the global north. When Mpox was an issue in US and Canada, Africans look at Mpox, but Mpox has been in Africa since the 70s and nobody ever, a lot of researchers were not paying attention to that. There was a lot of data present, we were not. A lot of publications came from Africa when it became a problem in the global north. How do we move to starting with our community first? Do we create platforms like the Blacks in Mathematics where we meet regularly to build that research capacity with the communities, learning from communities, and meet weekly, where if you're a professor in a university or researcher in a university, even if you're doing your work, you feel that now I have a platform, it becomes a brotherhood of a platform where you share the knowledge. No matter what happens, you will not just step backward. If you start by learning from the communities, no matter what data, the community will give you that data. And then you get the government on board. Once the community is on board, the government will be on board. Politicians attempt things about their vote. But once again, if we want to say that the public health institute should be dissociated from politics, but most of the time it's not. So how do we move on from a point where in Nigeria will rely on London School to develop their model. I was laughing the other time when WHO put a set of 10 groups. I think my good friend Emmanuel knows about these groups, was part of it, who are not Africans, to look at simulations for malaria in Africa. And the government in Africa have no choice than to succumb to this, because these people who do not know the local dynamics will do the simulation and the projections to inform malaria. But the African government have to succumb to this, because if you don't accept the simulation from those groups, you will not get the funding from WHO.
Yes. Yes.
How do we move?
Hello.
How do we ensure that we put our hands together and solve the issues within our continent and move away from relying on things that are imposed on us? Like WHO put this 10 group of people that were based in America and Europe to do malaria simulation for Africa, when there are core Africans that understand the local dynamics. So the data is there, everything is there. We need to learn from our communities, plan with our communities, act with our communities, and build capacity in our community, and move away from following funding.
Wow. Wow. Thank you very much, my brother. This is permit me to use the word, this is deep.
Yes.
Yeah, this is very deep. Very, very deep. And these are hardcore truths of what is happening. It's just like you have a mineral resource in your country, and you employ guys from outside your country to come and deal with the mineral resource, and now they are selling it back to you, and it's like, what kind of transaction is that? You understand that kind of a thing? This is deep. Thank you very much, my brother, Prof. Jude. Dr. K.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll build on what Dr. Jude has said. Is very factual. When it comes to data, there's a side of being data aware, being data informed, and also that leads to data, decision. The work I'm currently doing at here in Arizona is the data is from Maricopa County. In 2023, we organized, which I was part of, and the paper is also has been published, because we got a paper based on that forum. We organized a forum where we invited all the local expert, because the data I'm using is from Maricopa County. We have the county level. We have different spatial scale. Uh, in the US, we have what we call the county level. It's also is a kind of a big um, scale. We have the state level, we have the zip code level, we have the census block level, we have the census tract level. Those are the levels of spatial levels of data in the United States. So we have to convey all the local authorities from the local public public expert, because we have the Department of Public Health, we have the Department of, vector-borne disease in Maricopa County. So we convene all of them, we brought them to NAU, to have a discussion, because you cannot, solve. We don't want to build model, because we are building model. We wanted to show them the model. We wanted to show them how we are approaching. We wanted to let them see how will this model be useful, for you, and will you be able to integrate it into your system? That's what we wanted to do. So you cannot solve a local uh, problem without involving the locals. And let me
Yes.
give you an example. If you are writing a grant here, if I wrote an NIH grant last year, and yeah, that grant was accepted, and the funding should be released soon. So you want to work with the Native Americans. You cannot work with the Native Americans without discussing with them. Because number one, these people are, they are treated differently. You cannot just use the data, and you have to have a conversation with them. You have to, and sometimes you have to, um, put some of the, perhaps you want to build a question, and you have to put it in the local language, because they have a native language. So there must be a collaboration if we want to do what AI does, by AI help us to create data, to get information from data. It helps us to create pipeline. It helps us to analyze those data. It gives us that capability to to bring about good information from data. We cannot achieve all of that without, local participation, local integration, local conversation, and it must be a continuous one. The second phase of that, what we organized in 2023, we are going to organize it again, just to to update them and also to get feedback. There should be a continuous feedback. Okay, local people, people that are international, like what Professor Jude said, they want to look at malaria. If you have malaria here in the United States, sometimes if you are not careful, you can die because they don't even understand it. Sometimes they would think it's another thing that you have. I have a friend that the sister almost died. The sister came to visit the United States. She was having malaria and they didn't understand it until later on, somebody from African origin, was on shift that day, and then she was able to, understand, and then they were able to resolve. She almost passed away. So these people don't understand the local issue, and then they have the funding. And Professor Abdon has raised a very vital point. One of the problem we have, to move all of this forward in terms of how we want to integrate AI into our research is funding. We lack that funding capacity. We sometimes we lack that global visibility because when there is no funding, you cannot publish your research in Elsevier sometimes because if they don't do a free publication, those dollars when you convert it to our local currency, you cannot fund it. And so the global visibility, sometimes we are not having it. And if you are having a global visibility, that's where you have, more collaboration, international collaborations, and all of that, to help your work. And I also want to touch base on the theory. We must not leave behind the theory. The theory is important. Most of the foundations of machine learning is in linear algebra. So we must continue to uphold, to ensure that those theories, theoretical work continues while we also build on the data driven one, because we must build solid theory. So why we try, in this present time, AI is a big thing. We want to incorporate AI into our system. We must ensure that we continue to push the frontiers of collaboration. And another one thing I want to re-emphasize again, which I said earlier, is that we must build that kind of system. Professor Jude talk about having a forum. We must also build that kind of system where, like we have CDC here, where you go there, you go to the website, you can easily download data. Yes, there is no data that is perfect. Even here we have missing data. We have sometimes, if you participate in CDC challenge, sometimes they update the data. They will say, oh, a community, they misreported the data. So there's going to always be a reporting issue. There's always going to be a missing data issue. But we must ensure that we have a system. I shouldn't be having issues, to even get data from what do we have in Nigeria? We also have can someone remind me? The agency for
NCDC,
not
NCDC,
NAFDAC alone.
And
What's this?
NCDC.
Yeah. So we shouldn't have issues, assessing all of those data in our locality. So we must build a robust, data at the local level in Lagos State, in Ikorodu, in Ketu, in all those places. You must have, what we have here, local public health. I know we have all those, but those data must be out there so that people can use it, so that we can uh the purpose of introducing AI is to inform decision, local decision, uh local decision that will help in terms of intervention, that will help in terms of prevention, that will help in terms of pandemic preparedness. So Dr. Judas had some papers, I've seen some of his papers in terms of future pandemics. How do we prepare for them? These are some of the things AI will help us to do. Thank you.
yeah, thank you very much, Dr. K. This, to be honest, if the upcoming generation, we have to get some things straight. I want to believe that whatever we're discussing here today, this is where we're going to try as much as possible within our capacity to reshape some things, reshape some thoughts. And you see, the truth of the matter is this: your home is a place where you understand the language, you would be able to get some things from them, as Prof. Jude had said. Now, I'm going to put this question then to, I have just a few, Prof. Bakare and Dr. Jummy and Prof. Abdon. I'm going to put this question to Prof. Bakare, and I want to just answer it in 2 minutes. If you could go back 20 years, what would you do differently in the field?
Yeah, well, okay. Thank you very much for that question. Like, so one of my, like when I finished my PhD, I was passionate about like not doing things in the normal way, because what I saw was that there was a trend in the sense that people are just like I was saying yesterday, that it's a trend of like just developing a model just to publish for promotion. So I saw that everywhere in Nigeria. You just copy and paste, and you do salami slicing and all that. And the challenge now is that the interest is geared towards what can your model do for us. You understand? Like 2 weeks ago, I signed a contract with an industry in my center to do a model for them, and we have started. Now, you see, now the question is not that now a lot of people, despite what we are facing, what I saw from the beginning was that I saw opposition, but I didn't give up. I didn't give up because while I was going to Abuja looking for data and all of that, they didn't give me at a point. They were adding the data, but I didn't give up until one day I met with somebody and said he sent me the data, and that was data I used to write a proposal for my postdoc in Switzerland. And you see now, from there, that was how I got open up to grant application. So the major thing is, you see now, I've seen that the trend has been that let's just keep doing what we are doing. And then, especially just repeating the same theoretical, like if you find a modeling work now, the most basic thing you are going to find are just the standard thing. People are no longer doing any other thing again. You find positivity, boundedness, invariant region. At the point, I got tired of those things because it's not answering the question. So because people are looking at, okay, how do I answer their question? So now I'm seeing modeling now from the point of view of question. What question do I want to address? Now, if you are not addressing modeling for question, either you are doing theoretical or practical work, you are not doing anything because it's just going to be the same routine. So my idea now is that, look, I am interested in how do we use our model to answer questions, relevant questions, either from the public space, from the industry, from different sectors. How do we use models to answer questions, not to repeat the same positivity, boundedness, invariant region, all those things? They are good, they are standard analysis. But where do I go after that? After I've done all those basic analysis, where do I go? What question am I answering? So I think we have been too much on that to have left the main problem not being solved. So I think we need to go beyond that by thinking about how do we address questions given our model, given our theoretical background, given the data, and then so I think that's one way we need to, and then also having to have meetings. You see now, you cannot do policy-driven model by sitting down in your office and doing things in your office. And like I see model in two ways: academic models and policy-driven models. So a lot of people are sitting academic models. But you sit down in your office, you develop everything, you do everything yourself, you publish it. Nobody's using them. Now, if I need to develop a model that addresses the problem in the community, I must have contact with the community. And that was what we did. Like for my center, every month we have meeting with SMEO, surveillance, monitoring, and evaluation. We present our work. So when they were doing the last NMSP, that's National Malaria Strategic Plan, they included some of the findings we have done for our publications and all of that. in their work. When it's coming out, maybe I'll send to you. So it has to be forceful. So they included it in their work because they saw that what we are doing is what they needed. So the question is, we must be resolute in trying to do things different, approaching modeling from the point of view of question, not just from the point of view of known methodology, already known, not our. You see that when I publish a paper that is just containing positivity boundedness, it's not my original result. It's something that has been there. I'm just using it. So what do I do beyond that? That's the question. That's the thing that is before us now. We need to look beyond that space and solve problem that has to do with community, with policy makers, and that's when they can turn to us. Why would somebody go to? I think that's one thing that Jude also said. Well, that one is also in play. But what I know is that as we move on and we don't give up, and they see that what you are doing is relevant, they will call you. So I think that's my view to that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. Bakare. That which you said is the next phase that Dr. Dansu will deal with. And in 1 minute, Dr. Jummy, the question for you is that what do you think about weak policy translation? Is it good research, weak policy, or good research, good policy? Is the research and the policy, are they marrying together? Are we seeing the result in just 1 minute? It's a very funny question, right?
Yeah, it is. So looking at the African space and summing up everything that has been said, yeah, some works are informing, some research are informing policy, while many are not, based on what, also echoing what Professor Bakare said. So, and I think my perspective is, yeah, we need to be more data aware in Africa. That is very, very important. We have some data and we need to be aware they are available and make use of them. And so they say that all models are wrong, right? But some are useful. We also need to be able to know, bridge the gap between complexity and usefulness. Sometimes we just focus on, I want to include everything in the model without considering what data do I have and how can I use them to inform policy. But my main perspective would be, it's not easy to get data from Africa. Let's be realistic. If I want to do any work, I can easily go to the CDC, to any platform and get the basic data that I need for my work, and can also reach out to people. I want to say that based on my personal experience modeling for Africa or collaborating with Africans, sometimes data are seen like, getting data are seen like favorism. Some people would think they're doing you a favor by giving you a data. And then I don't think I want to base my career on a data that is sent to me from an Excel sheet in an email. I think citing an example of a platform that I got the data from is more informing than just saying I got the data from through a communication or something. So with that being said, to get a good quality data from Africa, you need to know how to network. Networking is key. I know some people, like, you can get anything you want. I'm talking about people that WHO said they had to model malaria for Nigeria. They are connected. If they are not, because they're probably eating something from that process, they are connected. That's why they're able to get the work. It's not that we don't have people that can do that. So we need to be connected, and also we need a good surveillance system. Our current surveillance system is poor. That is the simple truth. I don't want to have to develop a model, then to be contacting from one person to the other. Can I get this data? Can I get that data? I know, like, I spent days trying to get measles data. I got some data online, but I don't find them useful. So, and I said, okay, let me go on NCDC. You can search. So it's not that simple to be honest. It depends on the question you're trying to answer. So research, and if you want to do research that directly impacts, it's going to take a longer time to start your own surveillance. Like, I want to start collecting the data, then you probably won't be able to answer a broader question. So my simple answer is yes, some research are informing policy, while many are not. And I hope that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, to be honest, it really does. It really. Yeah, Prof. Abdon, because very soon, I think Dr. Dansu will reach out to you. But there's just one question I want to ask, which I wanted to ask in 1 minute. What mistakes or missed opportunities should the African space learn from?
What mistake? uh, you know, as I used to say in some of my talk, where when the colonial power came in Africa, they make us love self-esteem. And today, most of the time, when there is something, we only believe that the better one will come from the West. And for me, I think that there is a time to grow up as an eagle that grow up among chicken. And you think that you are chicken, at some point you have to understand that you are eagle, then you start flying. So African people, I think they have to stop thinking that the heaven in the West. I just checked the profile of Professor Jude. I never heard about him. And now I have seen a lot of work that he has done there in Canada. He did a lot of work in Canada in such a way that I'm not saying that he's going to be our plenary speaker next year so that is an example of a chicken that recognized that I'm not chicken anymore. I'm really an eagle, and he fly. So to conclude, as our sister is speaking about data, Professor Bakare is speaking about data on the other side, the research that we have to do in Africa will have impact if and only if our government work in partnership with us. I can tell you that I was actually in China. I was invited there to represent the continent. When I arrived there, when we were discussing about research, the Chinese, they told me, for example, that every year they give them 10 million euro to do a specific research. And when you see the type of simulation, you see the type of data that they have collected, I'm telling you again, as our sister said, it is very far from us to reach what we want to reach. So, Professor Bakare, I understand what you're saying, that we need actually to bridge the gap between mathematicians and our government. That is the way forward. We have to convince our government to tell them they cannot, we cannot have a country that we reach a specific level if researcher and the government, they cannot work hand to hand. And if the government cannot also give a portion of their budget to research. So it is a very complicated situation, but I think that, as Professor Bakare is already trying to do something in Nigeria, as I'm doing something here, as all of us, we are trying to do something, we have to make sure that our government understand that Europe and all those countries, they are where they are today, is because the money was put to do research. That is what I think.
Wow, thank you very much. That's profound. And one of the things I just want us to take is that, see, when we have forums and discussion like this, is meat for the matured ones, and it's to bring a lot of rethinking, reshaping, to avoid redundancy, and at least attain that height that we are supposed to attain. At this point, I'm done with the first phase. I'm going to hand over to Dr. Dansu, who would continue with the second phase.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adejimi, for the great job. And we thank all our panelists. Thank you for the incisive answers. I've learned a whole lot. So in this second part, we're talking about the present. Our topic is modeling of infectious diseases in Africa, the past, the present, and the future. So that first segment was about the past. Now I'm talking about the present, and this is what I want to do because of for the sake of time management. I'm just going to drop everything at once, and each panelist will talk exhaustively about it, and we go around, and then I'll hand it back over to Dr. Jimmy. So my question, having gone through the questions I had earlier, I think I can highlight three things: research trends among Africans that are into modeling infectious disease, research trends, brain drain, and collaborations. Now, my question is, what are your observations about research trends among Africans in this field? Then what do you think about brain drain? Is he how? I mean, some people think it's a problem. Some people think it can be an advantage. What are your own views about it? And the last one would be about collaborations. Do you think that um, African diaspora and Africans at home, are we doing enough to collaborate? So for me, ladies first, I'll go to Dr. Jimmy David. So can you talk exhaustively about these three things: research trends, collaborations, and brain drain? Then from there, I'll move on to Dr. Osinubi, and then from there, I'll move on to Professor Emmanuel Bakare, then Professor Atangana, then Professor Jude Kong. I think, yeah, but by that would have gone through everybody. Dr. Jimmy Ma.
Thank you so much. So I will merge the research strength and collaboration together because I think they go together.
Okay.
So no matter how strong our research is, I think they can still be stronger with collaboration. And also going back to what I said, as Africans, I feel we can do better in terms of collaboration. And this is really lacking between us. We need to get to that point where we think solving an African problem is a win-win for everyone. Not that it's me, it's mine. I think this is deep, and we need to see that and see how. And I'm talking both in Africans in Africa and Africans in the diaspora in abroad. So we need to come together and do better in terms of collaboration. And I will just cite the example of some of the collaborations I've heard. So I know that, we want to collaborate, we want to work together, but personally, I cannot collaborate and lead a particular paper. I would like to be there to give my piece, but when you ask me to lead at this point in time, it's very difficult because of my schedule and everything. So we need to bring people together that can give their pieces, bring this, bring that. So, and I've had an opportunity to collaborate with some of the Africans in Africa, but when a chunk of the work, and I'm being sincere now, when a chunk of the work is left for you, then it becomes a burden. And I have so many work in transit that are probably dead in transit or something like that. So we can do better in terms of collaboration. And I will also say that sort of research strength, openness. There is this thing that I read last week, and it says that Nigerians are wicked to Nigerians. I'm not supposed to say this publicly, but you and I know this is true. This is the truth, right? We need to get to that point where we see ourselves as we are solving our problems together. We are working together. And in that sense, we'll see the research strength, collaboration, brain, everything comes together as one. And we'll both achieve this. In many of the publications, maybe that have been featured by WHO, USCDC, or Public Health Canada, we will see that we have so many renowned scholars on the paper. They work together. Why can't we do the same and give our country? So this is what I do. And that is why I mentioned something about when we network. I know Dr. Kong has funding, is in Canada. He can maybe contribute to this work. I have this idea. Can we come together and execute it? We need somebody on ground in Africa okay, I'm not there, it's not there, we can find somebody. So working together it's going to give us a phenomenal result, like no other. That's just my opinion. It's not as simple as I'm saying it, but we can achieve the best by working together.
Before I leave you, Ma, I mean, speaking for Africans in Africa, researchers in Africa, I mean, I was teaching in a university in Nigeria. Then I came to Japan for PhD. Then afterwards, I went back. I mean, the whole thing was so choking that if you are not careful, you have no time for research. I mean, how can people how can we play around that? Because it's really a very it's a painful experience, really, and so many people are there who are passionate, who are willing, but then the system, I mean, it just keeps going so fast that they are not able to move on. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I perfectly understand. I'm sure probably Jude can say more on that after. So what I say with that is if we have more funding, we can let go of some work.
Mm.
For example, the teaching, that is how it's done abroad. I don't know much about back home. Like if you are supposed to teach like 4 courses and you have funding, you can hire graduate assistants and give them some teaching. I know like it's not a common thing, especially in Nigeria, to say I'm hiring a graduate student to teach my course. So that's what I think can still reduce the cost load and have more time. We can be able to have more time for research. And to be honest, I see us or Africans and Africans as being, not everyone, but some of us are being stereotyped. We have a status quo that we don't want to shift from. Like when you went back home, if you're trying to change the status quo, you're going to be tagged the name like,
Yeah,
what,
I mean, I got
because
told we are not in Japan
that,
here. I got
yeah,
told that a lot. Yeah.
exactly. And you'll be like, why did I come here? So it's very understandable. And it has to be done with wisdom because there you will see many people that are like older in terms of experience, in terms of or maybe they were your
They taught
lecturer
me
back
during my
home.
bachelor's degree. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has to be done systematically, and I don't really know how this can be done, to be honest,
Mm.
because our culture is playing a major role in our progress and the way we shift from that, because we are being tied down with our culture that this is what we are used to. So why do you
Mm.
want to change that? And we don't want to shift. So I just pray that God will help us. Yeah, that's the
Okay.
result.
Thank you so much. I mean, thankfully, we see a very excellent example with Professor Bakare, who has done something that was seen as impossible. So that I think that's really inspiring a lot of people to know that, oh, this is possible. Now he hires postdocs, he hires master students, PhDs, which is like very uncommon. And we really thank God for his example. Okay, so I mean, now it's like there are 4 talking points. It's because of that environment, and I added. So as I move on to Dr. Kayode Osinubi. So we are talking about brain drain, collaborations, research trends, and now I've added the idea of environment, the
Yeah.
environment Africans in Africa find themselves. How can we navigate these things?
Yeah, yeah, we just have to have a radical change. I hope Dr. Bakare, Professor Bakare is still here. I just want him to touch base on when he's speaking. Maybe he should touch base on the number of courses he's teaching and all of that. Let me tell you
Mm,
this: we have to be intentional. One of the problems
right.
we have is that some people want to sit down and they've been teaching this course for 10 years. They don't want to leave it. Because they've said that
Mm,
one student will not pass, or they
right.
want to befriend a lady, or somebody has offended. That's the problem. Yeah, you have to
Right.
be intentional. When I taught in Lasso, I taught in Bells, I taught I was in Nigeria, I taught. But I'm not that person. Even though my publication then was not a whole lot, because there was
Mm,
not really, that research, enthusiasm. But I was so deliberate, to develop myself. That was why I started going to conferences in Africa, getting some,
mm,
some funding to go to conference. So you have to be intentional to develop. Then I always said that me, I'm not here I to sit down and be telling ones I don't have time. I teach and I get out. I don't have time to be doing all that. And when I'm around, even me that the student don't normally see almost every time, they appreciate me more. Because
Imagine.
yeah, when I'm around, things are moving. And when I'm
Mm.
not around, yeah, they don't so the problem we have is that we have to change the system. We have to change the system. If you decide that you don't want to be teaching too many courses, we have to, that's why I want to hear the story of Professor Bakare. Maybe let's say he's able to do it. You have to ensure that you don't, and just one person, I know most time here, two, three people are teaching the same course, because if you die today, some people must be able to teach that course. Or if you leave the department today, some people should be able to teach it. You shouldn't just, be there and you are the one teaching a course for almost 20 years. And that's the problem we have. That's why our research is not going. And then number two thing I see is that we must build trust. Trust.
In
Trust is
fact,
very
Dr. Shegun
important.
just mentioned that
When,
right
when
now.
you yeah, when you share
Mm.
your idea with somebody, or perhaps a paper is written, somebody will go and copy and quickly. We have seen editors. We have seen editors going behind to publish papers of what they are reviewing. Even reviewers, it's terrible. So we must change. And then number three, what I've seen is that what Professor Bakare said it the other time. We just want to be on papers. We just want to publish. That's
Right.
why the order of authors is very important to us. I want to be number one. I want to be number two. In fact, go and look at most of Professor Jude paper. He's the last author because it shows the person who is coordinating. I don't know. Maybe that's how some of us see somebody who is the head of the team. That's what it shows. But some people want to be the first. They don't want to be in a paper where there's about some people you see 50 authors, and that doesn't mean that it doesn't count for them, because contribution matters. And like what Dr. Jummy has said, some people don't just want to do anything because they just want the name to be there. They will not do anything. They will not contribute, and then they want to collaborate. That doesn't work. So we want more collaboration. Some of us are very open to collaboration. Some people are very open to collaboration. But when you want to collaborate, you must bring skills, you must bring idea, you must be ready to do the work. You must not be so, so adamant that, oh, I want to be first author, I want to be second, all those things. So that's why it's also a system change. I understand they cannot get promotion if there's a way they put the percentage in some of our African countries, so they cannot get the promotion. But we must be intentional that no, this is not uh the only thing I want to get out of this, because when you collaborate, there's knowledge, there's a kind of teamwork, and you're able to solve, you share ideas, and stuff like that. And that's why, because to build on the trust issue I'm saying, that's why some people, when you want to collaborate with them, they cannot even share the code with you. They will say, send me the whole thing. I will, because somebody was telling me his experience that they are collaborating, and then they want to run the fitting, and the person doesn't want to share the code. But it's because he want to be God in that area. Number two, perhaps he does, and that's why we must build on those stuff. So there are three things that is very important. The system must change in such a way that it allows you, to grow, to publish. I understand that it can be shocking. You are teaching about 3-4 courses in a semester in a class. Sometimes some classes, I've taught a class that they are almost 400, 500. How do I mark them? How do I assess them? I still want to evaluate this student. So all those things, the university system must change, that it gives room for research, it gives room for collaboration, it gives room for, and like you have rightly said, we appreciate what Professor Bakare is doing, in terms of, you know, you know, employing grad students, setting up labs, and what should be coming out of Africa, where we must have radical change in all of this. Is there any other point I'm missing out before I?
Research trends.
Yeah, the research trends. Yeah, there's a whole lot that we need to, and I know someone has mentioned that there's um some things. When we look at our research, there are when you pick a paper, there are some fundamental things you see, but we need to change that. We need to shift we must not we must not continue to do things the way it should be. So we need to ensure that, yeah. And one thing I want to us to also learn is that we must drop this toga of arrogance. There's a kind of, this kind of arrogance among us. I've been teaching for many years. I've been doing this. And learning is continuous. And if you are not ready to learn, you cannot push the research frontiers. There are new methodologies, there are new way the how do you want to learn AI if you are not open? If you don't come down from that, your highs of arrogance and all of that, and you're not ready to learn from the young generations, and like somebody put in the chat, there are a lot of AI tools out there now that you can, that you can learn from, that you can just put things there and then they'll tell you, oh, this is how this work, and then you can. But if you are not ready, so we must ensure that we build that capacity of being, tech savvy, kind of. I know it's not everybody that will be tech, but we still need to introduce the theory is still very important, but we still need to introduce, what is going to be useful, what people will understand, the proofs. Most people will not understand it. But the applicable, that's why I apply math. I know the pure math people, I was in Oxford as a visiting researcher, and then I got to the School of Mathematical Science, and then the pure math. There's a wall that separates the pure math and the and the applied mathematician. Whereas that means they don't see a kind of a means of collaboration.
Wow.
The pure mathematician will say that the reason why we don't publish too much is because our our field is difficult. The applied mathematician, they can do, that's why they publish a lot. They can, and there must be a collaboration, because pure mathematics and applied mathematics, everybody must, must work together. So we have to stop this kind of strife, segregation, and and I think another key thing is openness. We must be open to new stuff, new skills, new ideas. The world is changing per time. The world is moving fast, and we don't want that the world to leave us behind.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kayode Osinubi. Thank you for that insightful input. I know when we get to Professor Kong is going to tell us more about AI as part of since he's been exploring that field, that area, because I know there are universities in Nigeria where they still demonize AI. So I know we need some insights on that. So right now we go on to Professor Emmanuel Bakare. It is so interesting that, I mean, he's based in Federal University of Ekiti State, Nigeria, and he's doing a global thing. So, so can we learn from your experience? What do you think about brain drain, about research trends among Africans, about collaboration, about even the environment, like the university environment in Nigeria? Yeah. So.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So since I have decided to stay back in Nigeria, I resolve that I'm going to create an environment that will make me to continue doing what I was doing before when I left Switzerland. So eventually I had to start looking for, because I've been trained on how to write proposal, grant, and all that. So I've done that, and by the grace of God, I felt like, okay, I've seen something abroad. Is it possible to repeat it here? So, and then I started with a master's student. I got a fund from Oxford, big data. I got £9,000. That was my first when I came back from Switzerland. So I got a master's student. I invested in her, and eventually she did a very powerful work. Now, the first modeling work that will be done on FGS, the problem was given by a parasitologist from University of Abeokuta who works with 60ph. And then the lady was able to do the work and then was funded. And that was one encouragement I felt is possible. We are going to do this project beyond this space. So eventually we got a Bill and Melinda Gates grant, which was like $3 million. So from there, I felt, yes, I think we can do what I have seen outside. So being able to pay master PhD students masters and postdocs in Nigeria for the first time. And then, although initially there were some little challenges, in terms of management, some people trying to do one or two things, not management. Let me not go into that aspect, please. So, but eventually, God helped me with the help of my vice chancellor and all that. He gave me some support, and then I was able to um, stabilize and got a place to start the center and got a lab. Eventually, as I move on, I faced some challenges. I still propose. I wrote the university for a land that I needed a land because we saw that the space we had was not enough for us anymore. And then they gave us 7 plots of land recently to build our lab, our center, So there are challenges anyway, like I said initially, in terms of the courses you have to teach and all that. Despite that, I still teach courses now. But the thing now is that, because I've trained some students, like in most of we do organize some workshops, like this year now we have organized, apart from training masters and PhD students and postdocs, we organize what's it called? We organize workshops, symposium and all
School.
that. Symposium
School of
can be like 2
modernism.
days. Yeah, we organize schools, we organize symposium, we organize workshops and all that. But we found out that, in all of that, I don't use any external person. I use mostly my students that I've trained, and that a lot has spoken. It has really helped me, and then like what Dr. Jimmy said, sometimes I may be given some courses and then maybe my student may help me at times because they get paid, so they can assist in running the course while I also like supervise them and train them and all that. So eventually it become a kind of not so easy, but at least a bit different from what it used to be for. And another thing also is that when you get to some level, like I'm a full professor now, and it's become easier for me because like in the department, at least I'm one of the seniors. Before you can say you want to challenge me and you go, yeah. So this kind of thing, let's say I'm L1 now or maybe SL, it may not be that easy, that's another aspect of it. So but for a professor, essentially now my cost is being reduced because I'm also a director. So to try to reduce my cost, I'm a director of the center, so those ones are also there. But another thing that is also important in all of these, I think Dr. Shego said something there. Is like you need to be transparent and you need to be trustworthy. People who are giving grants and given access to data. As I'm talking now, we have access to data from federal. My center is recognized as national malaria modeling expert for Nigeria.
Wow.
And we have access to all their data. As I sit down in my house, I can access any data, but it takes time. Trust.
Right.
It's not something that some academics have been there, but because of what people do, they have to withdraw. You understand what I'm saying now? So the thing is, like one thing I notice is that we must not first of all be after extrinsic value or extrinsic gain, but intrinsic value. Now, intrinsic in the sense that my goal, first of all, for staying in Nigeria is not because of money. If it's money, I will have run to Europe, go back to where I came from, or go back to the US. Yeah. So when I got here, but I still got job in Australia. So I have reasons why I said I'm staying back. So if I'm staying back, it's not first of all because of money. When you have the skill, money will come.
Right.
You don't need to, it's not about, no. But the challenge that we have in Nigeria is there is challenge of paucity of, like the salary is bad. So if the salary is bad, what do you do to save your head? As a professor, my salary for a professor is not up to 500,000. Yes. So if I convert, let's say $1,500, I don't know, it's not even up to, it's not up to $400. Yes.
Wow.
It's not up to that. So you are thinking that how do I solve the problem of feeding my parents, my children? You have aged parents, you have many things to solve. The money is not enough. So people are not motivated to do research except you sit down, you see, and tell yourself that how do I survive in this system?
Mm-hmm.
How do I solve my problem? Is it by traveling out? If I want to stay back, what do I do to be different, to stay back? Now, so because you have to be able to know how to answer those two questions. Because if you are not getting food in your tummy, my brother, you cannot do research. Oh.
Yes.
You can't think straight. Uh-huh. So those are other challenges that people are facing. But like I tell people that, look, if you are ready, you are well trained. Even if you don't know what to do, if you join the right group, you can be trained to do the right thing, like how to write public, how to. If you don't, okay, you still want to remain in the academia, you have paucity of funds, you don't have anything. Why not look for the right people who are doing something? Join them to do the right thing, and I think from there people can start moving gradually. I mean, so one thing I know is that in Africa, if you find people who are doing what is good around, either in Africa or abroad, there are some of us. The way I started was I started relating with scientists abroad, and then from there I was working with people in ICTP, and then from there I come back. I have the visiting fellowship for 6 years. From there, you start building connect network like that before you now come up to say, okay, you're having a very big grant. You start from small, and then from there you can grow. But you must start from somewhere, and then being able to do quality things, not quantity. People are after, oh, I want to have 50 papers in 1 month. I want to have this, and then you are sustaining quality for quantity. So at the end of the day, you are doing salami slicing. You publish one paper, you spread it into 10, and send one to this, send one to that, because you want to just publish for publishing sake. That is not going to make somebody to grow. So I think one thing is that we must have the mind that this thing, even if it is one, and that one, some people have one paper and it's like 50 papers to some people. So the depth and the weight of the publication is what matters. It's not about, oh, I have 1 million publication, I have this, and then when you apply for grant, you cannot get, because what you are putting up, they just see that everything you have in your 1,000 paper is just one thing. So I think these are things we need to think about, and then not be publishing for promotion. You have promotion 2 weeks time. You just quickly want to publish so that you can get. So all those things are affecting us. So or somebody, because you want your citation to increase. Anytime you are a reviewer, you tell people that, oh, before I can accept your paper, you should cite my work. So some people are getting citation through that. So all of those things must stop if we are going to do meaningful thing with our time, and then affect what is going on. So lastly, by the grace of God, you see now, I tell people that what God has helped us to do in the Camda. Today now we have the Camda YouTube. All our trainings, it's not only just like people from the West that you can get their trainings online. You can get all the workshops we are doing. You can get the training, all our webinar. You can get it on our Ikamda Foye YouTube. And people can, from anywhere. I mean, so I think that's the kind of thing we want to promote, So I feel that also on the issue of collaboration, there's need for trust. There are people that you are collaborating with. One of my postdocs was collaborating with somebody before he came to do postdoc with us. And then they were writing a paper together. And before you know it, the other person has sent one part of the paper to another journal.
Wow.
Without telling the other person. Yes. So these are the kind of thing we see, So eventually they send the paper to him. And then he said, this is the work we have been doing together with this person. And he sent it without putting the other person's name.
Wow.
So these are the things. So you see in the academia and you feel like, what is going on? So for you to stay in Nigeria, you have to create a good environment. Like in the Camden now, we have light 24/7. Even if in our environment there is no light, we have internet 24/7. We have through Starlink. We load it every month. So we have a good environment. There is light, there is everything, there is printer, you can do anything. So virtually what I can do in France, what I can do in US, I will do it in the Canada successfully. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I mean, I've learned a lot from that. Now I see that for researchers in Africa, we need to. I think trust is like the most common thing that was coming up. Dr. Shegun okay also alluded to that in the chat. Like trust. I mean, there's this person that came from the University of Ibadan, so a university here in Japan, and because a professor here is interested in what he's doing. And then when it came to the area of funding, it has to be institution to institution. So people are so concerned that the first of all the people the structure, maybe the leadership of the university, how well will they handle the funds. Then the next thing is, even at the researchers level, there are some issues that might arise like that. Thank you so much for all of those insights. So I've also seen that for researchers that are in Africa, we need to grow stepwisely. Like, a prof started with a grant of £9,000, had something with ICTP, and then until it became something big that gave birth to a CAMDA. Thank you so much for that. Now we go to Professor Abdon Atangana to talk about some of these things: brain drain, research trends, collaboration issues, and the research environment in Africa. Prof. Atangana?
Yes.
Oh, okay, sir.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Speaking about brain, I will go to the Bible where we have two figures. The first figure is prodigal son,
right,
and the second one is Joseph. Some of our talent go to outside of Africa. When they arrive there, they get knowledge and they come back in Africa and they help Africa. As for example, Professor Jude, they help Africa, so that is important. So we have another type of young African researcher. They go to Europe, they stay there, they don't want to have any connection with Africa because they say in Africa you cannot do something positive. But we are doing many things positive here in Africa. So
yes,
we
sir.
have those two. So it is good for some of our scholars to go abroad and learn and come back, or stay there, and when they are there, they help people back home.
Yes.
One of the power of China is that they took their student and they sent to the United States. And they send them in different fields, tell them, go here, learn this, go here, learn this, go here, learn this. And they went there and they learned, they went back and built China. So we want those who go to represent Africa and come back and help Africa. Now, in terms of collaboration, I will tell you something. I have got several postdocs. The postdoc, they come from outside of Africa. And some of them very respectful, very hardworking, and they produce. And I have postdoc from Africa also. And the one from Africa, sometimes it is very difficult. It is very hard for them to even, have that trust to say that I want to reach a certain level in academia. I want to be professor. So it's like you're forcing them to do something. It's like you have to coach them. Like you have to force them. So, and another thing that I observe in Africa, and I can say that my contribution in Africa is more as compared to my contribution out of Africa. Because what happened in Africa is that some people believe that collaboration Africa is not fruitful. Somebody is very happy to say that I published a paper with a guy from Oxford than to say that I published a paper from the guy from University of Ibadan. Yeah. For him, it is prestigious to say that I published with somebody from Oxford. So that is that trust that we lack in Africa, where we have to say that knowledge is not about geographical region. It is about the development. It is God gave us, all of us, that knowledge. So I think that as African, we need to start doing like Chinese. Do you know why even American, even Chinese, even European people, they have paper? Do you know why they have top journal? It's because they collaborate between themselves. Yes. Very recently, I was invited in in Shanghai for a very large conference that attracted more than 20,000 researchers around the world.
Wow.
And we were there. They paid my ticket, actually, first class. When we went there, so they have Academy of Science of China. They have a different type of a small academic, and they work together. And one of their objectives was, you know what, we are, in terms of publication, our paper are being rejected because they don't want us to publish maybe in American Mathematical Society. Let us build our own journal. And those guys, they build their own journals too. Nowadays, you will see that China has journal that are impact factor 19, 1
Wow.
point something, or they have that, and they work together. And another conference that I was for the first time ever, Africa was represented. That was the Council of ECIAM, where we went there to elect the new president of ECIAM and to also discuss was the conference of ECIAM 2031. We went there. Chinese came in a group to support one person. Japanese came also in a very big group. Do you know how many people were there from Africa? Me alone.
Wow.
You see? So that collaboration, that teamwork is what made European, American to be strong. And we lack that in Africa. And I think that it is time for us to start saying, you know what? Why can I not work with a guy from Ghana? We build a quality work that will make the West, to look at it. That is one thing. You mentioned brain drain. I talk about it. You mentioned
research trends.
Research trend, and you
Yes.
also mentioned what?
Environment and collaboration.
Yes. In terms of collaboration, I mentioned collaboration within Africa. I will tell you something that happened to me several times. I write a paper, I submit a paper in one journal. My paper is rejected the same day. They say that it's out of the scope.
Wow.
Then I take this paper intentionally. I add the name of somebody from Europe. This paper become a best paper.
Wow.
So the paper, I did not change anything inside. The paper now become a best paper just because somebody from Europe was added. And you know what I just do? I withdraw my paper, then and look where I can submit my paper. That is the reason why I think that at some point we can collaborate with them, with people from outside, for exposure. Because when I was in Vietnam recently for that meeting, I went there and I saw how those people are actually doing research in terms of aircraft. They build aircraft, and the lab that they have, and the result that they obtain, you can see the strength, of collaboration between somebody coming from this country, another person coming from this country. They come together and they build something very strong. So collaboration is very important, and we need it in Africa. And we need also in Africa at some point to say, you know what, let us see whether we don't need Elsevier anymore. Can we build something that will be African? Like we have our own journal, we have our own publisher, start doing, and give value to it in terms of publish good paper that will attract the attention of the whole world. They may not accept it for a moment, but I'm telling you, if we continue working together, building that journal, we will have also some powerful journal. That is the reason why I respect Chinese. When you go to China, you will see the collaboration. When you go to China, you see how they work together. So what I will tell to our younger one that are listening to us today is that knowledge has no geographical region. Don't think that because your supervisor is not from UK, the professor from UK is better than him. You have to understand that people from Africa, they contributed greatly in mathematics. Although sometimes they are not recognized, although sometimes people cry because it is a policy. It is a policy that will say, let us be the dominant pole. It is only us. So they will make everything to make sure that people from Africa will not shine. So let us work together as African people. Let us start giving value to things for that things are European people. For example, I met the president of International Mathematical Union. When I met him, I told him the truth. He ran away from me. I told him the truth. I told him that for more than 120 years, you people are trying to tell me that African person have never worked hard that he deserved to have field medal. He told me that Professor Atangana, first of all, African people are never when we are taking decision, and that was the case when I was there in Vietnam. I was the only African person, and we were even unable to pay our our membership for ACAM. I'm the one who paid that money from my own pocket, and I was able to vote. So we have to become very serious. I'm glad that Professor Bakare said I started with 9,000. Then that was the same thing with me. I started when I started at the University of Free State. I was not having any funding. So I started doing my research, start writing project. Then I started having funding. Now I can take 20 students to conferences.
Wow.
So you should be intentional when you want to do something. That is why I'm intentional to say that before I die, Africa will be recognized internationally in terms of mathematics. As when I was in Vietnam, people from Germany, they told me that, Professor Atangana, you just come here and you want to force that Africa should be visible. I say yes, because we are not a singularity. We are also a continent of 54 countries that should be represented. So I went there, I told them that we must have a speaker for 2027, a speaker, and they told me that, okay, Prof, we can only give you one speaker. I wanted two speakers. They gave me one speaker, and they told me that it should be a woman. Then I gave the name of one lady. She will represent Africa, she will present. So we must work hard so that we should be represented, and where we can take decision. If they don't agree, we should create our own award. For example, Mackenzie Award, for example, Bakare Award, for example, Atangana Award. We give value to that award, and we give that award to our student. We create our own journal, and we do something. If we continue as we continue like this, we are going to have brain drain, as you talk, because everybody wants a land where he's going to be nice, where it's going to be a very good environment. To be honest, the environment of work in Africa is not sometimes very good. It's not good. Yes. So that is why people are going out. You cannot blame them. And when they are there, they do wonders. So I pray again that we as mathematicians, we as African young researchers, we should make sure that we end the area of academic colonization. We should create our own journal. We should create our own publisher. We should create our own medal and impose, as Professor Bakare and me, we are imposing ACAM internationally. We are having our second edition. That's why Professor Jude have to come. He have to come and present as a plenary speaker. He have to come and present what. Yes. So all of you should come. Then, because they said ACAM has 5,000 participants, and African people are not there. Why? Because we have to pay transport here, and sometimes we don't have money to go to Europe. So let us make our thing great. That trust to say that Africa. Thank you.
That's serious. So I mean, I think this is opening up a vista for another further discussions on maybe how we can actually move our own things forward. I must apologize to every participant. Our time, we have 1 minute to go, but we are, with your permission, can we extend a bit? Are we okay with that? Okay.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
All right, thank you. So now we go to Professor Jude Kong to talk about these things. I saw him taking notes, so get ready for some bombshells.
No, I think I was taking my personal note on keyword because Prof is amazing. Prof, I hope you are not yet more than 40 because I see the field medal coming your way. Hopefully you are not yet up to 40. I hope that field medal comes. Prof, when you talk about the idea of brain drain, Prof talk about two aspects of the Bible, prodigal son and Joseph. And I agree with Prof. I tend not to look at Africa issue as brain drain. I look at it from three perspectives. I look at brain circulation, I look at brain underutilization, and brain waste. When Prof was talking about the people that are already out giving back. Where, if you talk of collaboration, you see when I just started my position, Dr. David here connected me to Prof. Emmanuel, and we collaborated earlier on where we started the African Young Researchers Group. If we didn't have that platform we are brought because of lack of, I would not have met Dr. Jummy here, and I would not be connected to Professor Emmanuel, so that we work together. On my own platform here, I've been able to create platform where I use the people I've made with. We have raised close to more than $50 million to support research work in several countries across the continent, doing work on mathematical modeling, strengthening healthcare system. That building of capacity back home, that circulation of knowledge would not exist if I was not found here. And so they give back, you create platform. Brain waste, because there's a lot of talent, but the environment is not yet suitable. We're still working towards that platform to be able to utilize the brain that we have. So if we don't create platform where they circulate and bring back, then we end up wasting brain, where people with their PhD knowledge end up riding again Okada. But it's not bad if they are, but it's whether that is their intentional job. And so we end up wasting those brain if they're not used. So I don't see Africa issues being brain drain at the moment. I see that there's a lot of brain waste within the continent. But I'm glad that platform exists that are working towards that. When Emmanuel mentioned that when he went back, he created a platform and realized what has been happening, what he did abroad, was because Emmanuel was a Swiss TPH. The Swiss TPH team, he was able to get exposed to grant writing. Then he brought that capacity back home. There are other colleagues that have been at Swiss TPH that collaborate with Emmanuel back home that help facilitate that. We all believe in the Ubuntu principle. I am because we are. And I love when Prof mentioned earlier on that you should be an eagle. Declare yourself an eagle. And
an eagle.
I am because we are. We will remind everyone that you're an eagle. Otherwise, we know fully well if an eagle spends a lot of time with chicken, it forgets that it is an eagle and it can fly. But when we create platform like the Blacks in Mathematics community here, where we can remind everyone and bring amazing leaders like Prof. Atangana, who have come up with new methodologies that are informing policies around the world, unique to Africa. They're able to remind you that you're among eagles. That means a chicken will never be found among eagles. It's only an eagle that will forget that he is an eagle and then find himself among chickens. So when you create this platform and then you have people like Professor Atangana that come in and remind you that you're among eagles, then you're strongly reminded that you're among eagles, and then define who you are, and then you can fly. You realize that you create platform where you empower people to write grants. And Professor Emmanuel talked about being able to build an environment where people support each other and collaborate. And when we talk about this, the Black in Mathematics, when they started, they talk about their research platform, where now they have another platform where, I don't know how it functions very well, but researchers come and collaborate. That's exactly the type of platform we need, where researchers come and remind everybody that we are eagles. We have one, the Africa-Canada Artificial Intelligence and Data Innovation Consortium. We meet every week. We collaborate on papers. We collaborate on everything, on the work with the government. Somebody create an innovation in Ghana. Then somebody in Nigeria sees that we need this in Nigeria. And then you don't want to invent the wheel. We just transfer the knowledge. Somebody in Cameroon create an innovation, or somebody in South Africa, and we get transferred that. And we meet every week, and everyone has been committed to this in such a way that even in a colonial system where it's become very difficult to get data, true that when we have government on the platform, government is giving that data. The other idea is, how do we work on true collaboration to empower students? I like what Emmanuel is doing. Can we create a platform where students meet in the lab every summer? Every innovation, Facebook was discovered because students meet in a lab and then discover an idea that is necessary for their communities. Can we create a platform after we drive home community-based research? Can we ensure that we bring students in the lab every summer or every holidays to work on research? True that that's how students start thinking of learning an innovation issue in the communities, because they are pushed by the way you think, to think out of the box, and then they create a problem. And then one or two students will discuss about an idea, and then it leads to a startup, and then it creates jobs, and then hire people. those students will not only think of having a good GPA to move abroad, those students will think of creating a startup and hiring other students that are doing modeling to come and work with them. How do we do that? Within academy, what we have done is we run this club through universities. Students work that way, and then they compete as African every summer, and then we give them a prize. It's little amount of money, $500 does this. But can we move towards that platform? Otherwise, the key in the university is always, let me get a good GPA and move abroad, because there's brain waste within the continent. Can we create that platform and move from brain waste to brain utilization, where, and then we equally send those abroad to be able to exchange and learn from each other? Everybody play a role. I am because you are. And when we bring in the community and we bring an entire community, Africa has always succeeded because we hold our hands together, the Ubuntu principle. We'll remind everybody that we are eagles. And thank you, Prof, for reminding everyone here that you are among eagles. You're not a chicken. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for that intervention. Thankfully, Black in Mathematics Association, we are doing our own bit. We are bringing Africans together from across the globe. We have a research arm, and we have been productive all so far. And we have a platform like this. We are even connecting, African researchers. I'm very glad that one particular connection we have forged is that between Prof. Atangana and Prof. Jude Kong. I was really excited to hear about what's coming up. So I cede the floor again to Dr. Adejimi Adeniji for the last part of this event.
At this point, I think we should go, right?
I mean, we've heard a lot.
We've really heard a lot. And let me just chip in this, because I think when Prof. Abdon Atangana was talking, I'm sure Dr. K will be able to remember these, and I think Dr. Dansu, which was, I was talking to them when we were discussing. This should be like 2 years ago before BMA started. And I said, one of the places where we are going with BMA is that we want to create an avenue or a platform where Africa in its own place will have its own journal, so that, and it's going to celebrate its own people. In fact, that's number one. Number two, we started something last year, but we had a pause on it, where we look at veterans within the Africa space, and looking at how we can also create an award with respect to them. So when Professor Atangana was saying some of these things, I was just laughing, like, okay, yeah, this shows that we are actually on point, and this shows that these are the things, the way we conceive them shows that we are actually right, and it's something we'll definitely do. With respect to time, some of the things we spoke out today, at some point, I'm going to reach out to us and see how these things can be implemented. One of the things I've understood is, if we are waiting for the right time will not come. We just have to make sure that we start something. So the last phase of this panel is this, and I've actually itemized them straight. And this goes to Prof. Jude straight. Now, we know that in a way you are an expert when it comes to, AI, machine learning, disease-informed neural network, artificial intelligence, agents-based modeling, and all that. Now, can you tell us in a nutshell what novel direction? Now, we are talking about the future. Now, we've discussed the problem. We've looked at the past. We look at the present. Now, the future is it. What novel direction should we explore beyond classical models? In a nutshell. Prof. Jude?
Oh, you're talking. Okay, thank you so much. By the way, when you raised that, I was thinking about the single layer epidemic models theories that have proven COVID has shown that they are not enough. The assumption of homogeneous population, where mixed population, human beings are rational beings. That's proof that those are not enough. We did see people carrying toilet tissue when there was COVID-19. We saw people, there was one who had a sticker in his car saying, I never use my 10 signals because it's nobody else's business. But the classical epidemic model do not take into account all of this, which have done a great job. And again, like my great friend, Dr. David said earlier on, all models are wrong, but some models are useful. They're being useful. They've created a great tool. But we've started moving from single layer to dual layer theories and to multiple layer, 3 layer, where we bring in human behavioral dynamics, when we bring in mis and disinformation. Again, through this, we are looking at novel data sources. In all of these, this is when we'll be able to solve some of the loopholes that COVID-19 identified to us, moving from single-layer epidemic model to multi-layer epidemic model. By layer, I meant you have the disease, you have information spreading there, you have human behavior spreading there, which is not homogeneous the way our classical model have considered, as COVID rarely showed to us. And that's the direction that we are taking at the moment.
I'm sure that you've just raised a very high signal, and I'm very sure that to the folks in the house, that should be something they should be looking into expediently. And okay, straight to Dr. Jimmy. Now, how can we build a stronger research network and center of excellence? Of course, Pan-African collaboration, formal network like African Modeling Consortia, and things like that.
Yeah, thank you so much. So with all that has been said, I think the simple answer is collaboration and to be open-minded. And I really want to emphasize on my current role as a pharmacometrician. I know that probably not so many people know about pharmacometrics, pharmacology, and I would say that right now, I only know myself and one other woman, Black woman from Africa in this field. So creating a stronger network is being open-minded. There are different ways to tune or fine-tune our research to inform policy. And one of the ways is, I know we don't have so many or probably non-pharmaceutical industries in Africa, but we can still make our work inform decision-making around drug development. So one thing that I've seen is it's very rare to see in most of our trials to see Blacks or Africans. So most of the drugs that we take in, they were not tested on people like us. And that is why you see some of the drugs are probably not as efficacious as for us than compared to other people. So being open-minded in this area is how do we fine-tune our model so that we don't only focus on one area, but be very open-minded. Simple ODE, simple PDE, and also being open-minded to multidisciplinaries. Like I'm in the area that you use math, modeling, you use statistics, you use biology, you use pharmacology. And bringing all of this together it makes research very rich. And I really want to echo and appreciate Jude's efforts. When he worked on a paper, he invited Professor Bakare on COVID-19 and self-medication, if I can remember very well. So that's one of the great collaboration among Africans that I would say. And this involves so many Africans and with different personalities, different areas of research. We have biologists, we have clinicians, so many people. So, and it made the research so rich. So to improve our research, to improve the strength of our work, I think being open-minded and collaborate, seeing things from different angles. So looking at in terms of drug development, how can we improve our model or extend our research to also support public health and indirectly supporting drug development. Because I haven't seen any of that. And I was even thinking about discussing this with Professor Kong, that how do we support in this area? Because it saddens my heart to see that even when they call for postdoc interns, we don't see many of us applying to programs like this. And this is also modeling and simulation, modeling for drug development. And we know that when a pandemic or an epidemic or a disease is recognized, we also need vaccines, we need drugs to tackle them. But how can we influence the decision-making in this regard? How can we help so that the drug that is probably efficacious for a white person is also good and useful and efficacious for the Black person? So we can also influence in this regard. And this is also it is also one of the ways we can extend our research to have to improve the strength of our research. And yeah, I think that's one thing that I will mention. Collaboration, being open-minded to, it's not, I won't say it's a different area, but it's also public health in disguise. Like it's indirectly informing and helping public policy regarding people's health. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's profound. To Dr. K, in a nutshell, how do we strengthen capacity building, summer schools, graduate programs, mentorship, partnering with diaspora researchers?
Yeah, like I've said, we just need to change our system. We need to do a lot of upgrade in our curriculum. We need to change our approach to research. One thing I've learned is that you don't develop models without seeing the data. It is data that should inform your model. So we must, move in that direction. And also, we must improve our data capabilities and improve more in terms of our collaboration, improve more in terms of how we must build trust, and improve more in terms of how we involve local communities to solve local problem. And then, yeah, we must also have at the back of our mind, the US now is not America first. So we must also have that slogan, Africa first, which should be important to all of us, that home will always be home. Wherever we go, east or south, our home will always be home, regardless of wherever we be. And that's the identity we carry. And whatever thing we have attained in life, that's still our source. No matter how we complain about the system produces us. And it was those things that we learned from the system that we used to got funding, we used to travel abroad, all the things we are attained. That's why we want that system to change. But all what we have attained is through that system. So we must continue to build that. Yeah, those abroad also must continue to look back at home and to see how to solve home issues. Malaria is a very tough situation, as we are, like, Nigeria now has been declared free of polio. I hope that still stand. I'm also looking for a time where we'll declare free of malaria, where will not continue to treat that deadly disease, and we have lost a lot of people based on that. So that is what I have to say as a concluding remark. We must continue to collaborate. We must continue to share ideas. We must continue to network across board as we move forward.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. K. Collaborate. Yeah, and this is for Professor Bakare. In a nutshell, how can we ensure modeling outputs are locally relevant and used in policy? For example, co-design models with ministries of health, translate results into clear visual dashboard and policy brief. In a nutshell.
Okay, so I think from the word go, usually it was while working with them that I got to know that most times what we read from publication is not enough to develop a model that will affect what is going on there. So they showed us their operational research agenda in terms of what some of the questions they want modeling to answer for them. That is their interest. They have a particular book for that. So when we had access to that, it gave us a kind of knowledge, yes, a light into what they need. There's this thing that is like you are doing something that your client does not need, so it's going to be a waste of time. So, but now, we need to go to that direction that, okay, what do you need? What can we do for you? At a particular time, I was trying to access NCDC. I didn't get access, So then what I did was I got a data on MPOS, and then I did a forecast. After doing the forecast, I sent it to them. Then they said they want to meet with me. So one way is that, that was what gave us the room. So we need to be proactive in terms of, because most times some people don't really feel that, oh, you can do something, except you provide minimum value product, MVM, MVP, minimum value product, beyond proposal. Oh, you have a proposal, fine. What have you done that we can see in relation to what we do? So, and then from there, you can get start to talk. So people want to see beyond proposal. I have proposal, fine. What have you done before that can show us that you can do this thing? So I think that is one way to go from there. And then we begin to, so some of them begin to share their thoughts and their mindset with us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. So the last one, and this is to Prof. Abdon Atangana. How do we prepare Africa for future pandemics? In a nutshell.
I think that question could have been asked to Professor Jude. Okay, but it is a very important question. Artificial intelligence. When I was in China, for example, they have a very big building where they are doing projection in the future using data that they have already. So they have data, what happened in the past. They have some type of model, and they make the machine to understand those data, and they do some prediction to know if this happened in the few in few months, what will be our reaction? What can we do to stop to slow down the pandemic? So in Africa, it should be the same. As many people said, we have a lot of data. Of course, as we are the testing ground, we have some data here. For example, we have data on malaria. We have data on flu, and we can use those data to use artificial intelligence to train, so that we can know what will happen in the future, and what will happen in the future we can prepare now. But for this thing to happen, I want to say again, when we organize a conference, let us invite, if possible, member of government. You know, for the first time ever, I organized a conference here in South Africa, and I invited the ambassador of Cameroon. He was there. The ambassador of Guinea Conakry, Guinea Equatorial. Some ambassadors were there. So what I did, it was purposely to invite people from Europe to come and present in front of African people what they have developed there, how they put money in funding to predict what will happen in the future. So those people came. Some of them were speaking about the government giving them something like million of rand. So I asked my ambassador, do you understand what is happening here? These people are already preparing for what will happen to them in the next 30 years. That's the reason why the country is giving a lot of money to people to start preparing for what can happen in 30 years. You know, for example, for Africa, it was only God that saved us with COVID, because we were not prepared. We were not prepared in terms of how to approach the disease, how to understand the disease, how to make sure that the disease does not spread widely in our community, and what can we do to make sure that those who are already infected, how can we cure them? So it was a problem. So I think that at some point, mathematicians or people that are doing modeling, whenever we have a very big event, we have to invite people that are making policy. We present to them also what people are doing on the other part of the world, and you know, then we will be able to stimulate their mind so that they should understand that we cannot work without them. That is what I can say. I think maybe Professor Jude can add something, because he's expert in the field. But I think that we still need to work hand to hand with the government. That is what makes Europe great. That is what makes America great. That is what makes China great. To say that we are going to do it in our own is going to be very difficult.
Thank you very much. It's really a lot. Before I hand over to Dr. Dansu, I just want to say this. In the coming weeks, I'm going to send an email to some of our panelists. Please, once we get that email, I'm going to appreciate a prompt response from us, because some of that that some of that email will detail some of the things we've discussed today and see how it can, progress from there. Thank you very much, and I really want to appreciate our panelists. Dr. Dansu?
Let me say something before we go.
Okay.
I had a great discussion with Professor Gomel. He's in Nigeria. I think that you know Professor Gomel.
Yeah, I know him.
Abdon Gomel.
Yeah, I sent him an email.
Yes. So, of course, did he reply?
Not yet.
Okay, of course. Okay, there is no problem. I just want to discuss something with you regarding what I had as a discussion with him. He told me that there is a time that they had a problem in Nigeria. He was still early career researcher. So they organized a very big, something like a conference or something there in Nigeria, where they invited the former president. I think, what is his name? He's still alive. He's old, but he's still alive.
Obasanjo?
Yes, Obasanjo. So they presented the talk, but they brought the talk down so that the president can understand what is going on. So they discussed, they presented many things. They presented about malaria. They presented how many people have been killed, this. At the end of the conference, the president was able to commit a lot of money for the work to be done. So when we keep them far from us, to be honest, we are not generating any form. But if we are closer to them, we will be able. It is good for us to get funding from Europe, but sometimes those funding has some condition. But if you have funding from Africa, from Nigeria, for example, that the president of Nigeria give to Bakare something like 10 million US dollar, tell him that I want HIV to finish in Nigeria. I'm telling you that he will make sure that even with police, even with, everything will be facilitated for Professor Bakare to do whatever he wants to do. And you will see that HIV will finish in Africa. Let us make sure that when we have big event, we invite policymakers.
Yeah, definitely. Our program lead and our program and organizing lead is here, which is Dr. Dansu, and I'm very sure it's something we will work towards. I think before I hand over to him, one of the things I really want to say is I would really and strongly appreciate within the Black community that, like Dr. Kayode said, we don't look down on ourselves. Sometimes it seems as if those who are high up there and we who are coming, we can't relate. I have an idea. I'm sure Dr. Danso and Dr. Kayode will understand what I'm saying. It's easier for me to send an email. I will still say it today that the first time I sent an email to Prof. Jude, Prof. Bakare, and Prof. Abdon Atangana, even down to Dr. Jummy, at once there was a response, not minding where the email is coming from. And I will really appreciate that at some point that this also cuts across, several veterans that we have, that irrespective of the things that is happened, they also respond to the younger generation, because once they leave, it's the younger generation that will take over and put some of these things into perspective. Thank you very much. Dr. Dansu, over to you.
Thank you so much for that again. There's nothing else I have to say than to appreciate everyone who has been a part of this today. And interestingly, we are all here and we are all rising. When you get to that height, please be open, be accessible like our panelists today, because it is in this access that we can actually build the kind of Africa we want together. We are very sorry for extending this beyond the scheduled time. Thank you so much for staying on for this long. Once again, we appreciate all our panelists: Professor Abdon Atangana, Professor Emmanuel Bakare, Professor Jude Kong, Dr. Jummy David, and Dr. Kayode Osinubi. And for all participants, I particularly recognize Dr. Shegun Oke, and a professor in University of Alabama. I mean, he's been supporting BMA all this while.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody. I see I've been seeing someone around. I don't know if he's the same person. Like, the name is exactly like my maths teacher in high school. I don't know if he's the one, Bashir Oyetunje. I don't know. I doubt if he's the one, though. Maybe it's another person. So we appreciate everyone
Dr.
who has
Shegun.
attended. Thank you so much for all the contributions. We see all the interventions in the chat. One big issue for those of us who are in Africa, trust is a very big deal. So if people can build trust, you can attract a lot of attract a lot of opportunity, a lot of effort, I mean a lot of collaborations. But most of the time people are, they are so desperate. Maybe they just want to travel out of Nigeria, or they just want to get money. You get plenty of money if you just calm down and do things the right way. So let's just target the impact first, and the money will definitely follow. So once again, thank you so much to all our panelists, to all participants, to our convener. Once again, thank you so much for the visionary leadership. We have so many events outlined ahead, so we'll be in touch with everybody who has ever attended any of our programs. So watch out for BMA. We are doing our bits, and we are sure that we'll be at the forefront with all our leaders in moving Africa forward when it comes to mathematics at large, and all the other interests, all the other things we are interested in particular. Thank you so much. We are very, very grateful. God bless you so much. We know that next time when we call you, you will definitely respond, because we know you are very busy for sure. But we appreciate that you're here today. Thank you so much. See you next time. Bye.
Professor Jude, I'm going to send you an email. He has left.
Okay.
I'll
Just send it.
send him an
He will
email.
respond immediately. I'm
Yeah.
very sure of that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'll be in his school in
Nice.
2 months.
Yeah, so I guess we can stop recording, and then if you want to have like after party discussion, you're free. For those who still